Ecstatic Bliss. Secrets to living a juicy life.
Hello, my loves. Wow, how often have you thought about in which movie am I currently in? What storyline has my soul chosen, or what character do I actually play here? And I want to share one concept that has helped me a lot on my journey and still helps me to step more and more and more and more to my own truth and align with my soul, is the concept of stories, or writing stories, rewriting your storyline, and how much actually the whole reality you live in, we all live in, is in a way a story. It's just a story in a way that your soul writes in alignment or in contract with the divine, or the divine writes the story through you. So knowing this or using that concept helps so much on becoming more confident in this is just a story and this is actually who I truly am. And in a way also a little bit to detach from too much of suffering, too much of pain, too much of, even also on the other side, too much of anything, any extreme, and to come back to your center, to come back to alignment, to come back really to love and truth. And that's why I want to share today about this topic. So maybe you've also phases in your life where you already thought, I don't know, but somehow this is a pattern I see in myself. And this is kind of like a repeating story I tell myself, or some part, not you, you are not everything of your system. A part of you tells yourself a certain story, and you feel at some point maybe even stuck, as if you cannot move out of that storyline, as if always being in that story attracts the same or similar experiences, similar people, similar emotions are triggered, similar thoughts are triggered. So it's kind of like being stuck in a loop of one storyline. And that's obviously not what we want. Either we want to explore really the multitude of experiences. So I know souls that are here, like, I want to make the most of this life and I want to redefine myself over and over again. And some souls, like, for example, me, it's more about getting rid, so to say, of letting go all of the stories I ever told myself. And obviously we all transition through stories the same. It's actually very much connected to how we create our identity. If you want to tap more into that, I have one episode about identity shifting and one episode also about truth embodiment, because identity shifting and truth embodiment are really interconnected with writing or rewriting your story. Back to what I was talking about before. So there are some people who really want to manifest their dream life, they want to write their best story of life. And then there are those like me, maybe more on a little bit different path of spirituality, who see this is actually all stories is a trap. All stories keep me trapped, keep me imprisoned in a way, keep me unfree of what I truly am. For me, at least, it becomes more and more clear that I feel emptiness is the most freedom I can give myself. So I want to empty myself from labels, from identifications, from stories, from anything that I'm attached to. Not over attaching. I also did one episode about detachment. And I also stated that it's not about over detachment and not over attachment, but about finding the middle ground. So, and why I also talk about this topic today is that I actually kept a long story in myself, because it was also a beautiful story. I mean, not all stories are in a way the villain, or we don't have always villains in our story, maybe. But this story kept on going for far too long. So actually, it's also a discernment. We are here to learn, when is the story over, or when are there still some lines to write in it. And this story, somehow, it was so beautiful in the beginning, and at some point it felt just draining energy. It just felt like it is keeping me somewhere where I'm not meant to be anymore. I've outgrown that story in a way. And actually, when I think about it, the more I tap into that story, the more narrow focused I am, the more I don't see other options or other perspectives of it. And maybe also it keeps me in a way fixated on one certain outcome of my soul's journey. Because there are so many unknown components. No matter how much you're connected to the universe or can foresee whatever future, yeah, I feel there remains at least always a little piece of unknown. And that's the game the divine plays with itself, that there's an unknown of the storyline, that as if this wheel of forgetting is just step by step revealed whenever the divine feels this is a perfect timing now. This is a perfect timing to get one more tip, one more clue, one more key, one more code. So it's that game that it plays, and what, in a way, if you see it from that perspective, can be quite interesting and fun. So I felt at least stuck in that storyline. We are never really stuck. It's just like our feeling that we are maybe looping, or that we are too much in this. I feel unfree. Yeah. And then I noticed there came a lot of anger, frustration also, but also a lot of anger. Not necessarily about myself, because I always acted in my own way, always following my own internal guidance, always following love and what I see as my truth. But still there was some form of anger coming up, and I felt like, wow, this is somehow really a transformative, fiery energy that wants me to push out of that story. Maybe you have also already come across such an energized or a similar story, actually, where you wanted to go out and you felt like, I'm stuck and I'm so angry and I want to move on. So how? Help me. Yeah. So this kind of energy is really fiery energy. So the fire element is really, really beneficial, actually, always when we want to step out of something and consciously step into something new, or at least say, I have enough of this story. I have gotten the point. I'm ready. I'm really ready for the next level, the next step of my journey. So anger came up, and I felt like, it is interesting. Let's use this anger to really change something, to really transmute, transform, and burn something, literally. Yeah. So this is maybe also an inspiration for you to write whatever comes into your mind and your emotions up. Write it down and then give it to the fire. So burn it in the fire and put it out into the earth so it can transform. And what I wanted to say with that actually is that anger often comes up at the last resort, as the last point of the stage when the story is really to be rewritten. Or maybe you write a total, complete new story. Yeah, there's either the option, I write another ending, or I write another continued part, another chapter, or I drop that story completely. Yeah, the Tower of Tarot. I completely destroy that story. I've lived that, I've done that, I've seen that, I've experienced this. Thank you so much. Ready for the next story. Yeah. Any case, it's anger comes up when it's the last resort, when your soul says, or actually the universe through you says, it is enough of that. It's enough, oftentimes also, of suffering, of pain, of frustration, of anger, of hate, of sadness. It's enough of that. cycle. Yeah. If you see this, okay, life is going like the wave, like the roller coaster. If you're too much stuck in one low or high, there's no evolution. So a story switching, a rewriting of a story also oftentimes actually switches this up and down phases. It shortens it oftentimes, or at least if you're in a story that maybe started here in the high vibration and then slowly it goes down, that at least then you rise up again. That at least is something I noticed when I really felt like this story is not beneficial for me. It's not supporting me in any way anymore. So feel into maybe also which story do you tell yourself at the moment. Oftentimes we actually tell ourselves multiple stories that together form maybe a bigger story, but it's all about storylines. Your life is a story. So take the responsibility to rewrite it if you don't like it, if you're not happy, if you don't feel this is in alignment with my soul, with my truth, with love. Rewrite it. You have the capacity to rewrite your story. Or maybe you've seen it in a title, or own it. I also come across so many people who are in a way always and again talking with different people about the same story over and over again. So they actually support themselves into keeping themselves stuck, or the ego is kind of like, yes, I have this story and that's why I am such a victim and that is why I cannot do X, Y, Z, or that's why I'm not like this and that. You know, talking of the ego in a way, to actually not take the responsibility. I'm not saying that you are responsible maybe for being in that situation, but you're responsible to get out of the story. Sometimes it's, I feel, really the case that other people influence a lot, that you may be drifting to a storyline that was not beforehand planned from the divine, yes, but not really from you. And then you take a detour, but it's your responsibility to see that and then to change course of your ship. And that's why a lot of people actually, I feel, even misuse, so to say, their story of the past to get attention, to get compassion, to get whatever, love in a way, at least. And that's also keeping them stuck and looping and not benefiting them. So what I also invite you to do is actually, yes, you can be grateful and own your past, but don't let your past define your current storyline. Not in the way that you suffer. So this is what I wrote, coming back to that. I'm jumping a little bit because I'm excited about this topic, is that either you take the responsibility to change it, to rewrite it, or you take the responsibility to own it. If you want to stick to one storyline, then at least own it and own it fully. I'm like, yes, that's my story that I tell myself. And I totally own it that I feel this in that way, in whichever vibration you're in. Because owning actually also a little bit switches the story by really embodying it and not being like, oh, I'm the victim of it, or I am the heroine or hero of it. Stories help us to experience life, and dropping stories help us to experience the divine, our true nature. That's my view, at least. So yes, same with shifting identities, with stepping into new identities, with stories, new stories, rewriting stories. It's the same. That you can play with that, and it's fun playing with that. But in my opinion, at some point you get to a certain level of your consciousness when you see like, I'm done with these stories. I don't want to tell myself any story anymore. I'm just stepping out. I'm kind of like getting out of these clothes. And then actually you become more a projection. You're always a projection anyways from others, but you become even more a projection for others. And you become a clean slate of, okay, whatever you see in me, I am the mirror of you. You become the mirror, the divine mirror for others to see themselves. And actually, the more you are in truth of your own self, more in soul alignment and connected with the divine, the more you become actually also this really sacred mirror of, hey, you are the same. You're the same as me. You are also divine. You are the God, the goddess, her or himself. Exhale. So this is something I really wish you can see in your life, that all drama also, there's also an episode about how to get out of drama. And there I also mentioned stories. It's in a way consciously and also from your mind perspective, it's actually something very easy to understand that you live in a story, that you live your own movie, that you create your own reality. You know that. What maybe the task is in a way for you really to bring it more down into your body and feel it through visualization, through really feeling the subtleties of this life, of your life story. And then also always and again checking in, is that the story I want to live? Is this the story I want to write? And if you're on that path of I want to manifest my dream life, then ask yourself, is it the story of my dream life? Is it the story of my highest potential? Is that the story of the truth, who I am? Is that the story of living my soul's purpose? And actually, it's also very interesting to obviously also see which characters are in your story, which characters appear and over again appear. Whom have you given the label of, this is the villain of the story, this is the hero of the story, this is the one I put on a pedestal maybe even, because with these constellations around you, you point back to yourself what story you create and what identity you live, which role you play. And oftentimes actually people even don't play the main role in their own story. Yeah, so at least rewrite your story that you're the main character. Unless, obviously, your soul wants to experience, oh, what does it mean to be not the character, the main character of my own story? That's also something to play with, yes. But in the end, it comes back to being the main character. Because if you are the main character, actually, and you are everything, you are the creator, you can draw back your energy to yourself and you can create out of your divine essence of superpowers and be that superhero of the divine. And maybe you realize or you notice that I very often talk about the divine because for me on my journey, it just it is just something really deeply ingrained in me by now, that all we are and all what we do and all what we think and all what we feel is just an expression, not just, it is an expression of that divine force, of this universal energy. And the more you not only understand it, but feel it through your being, the more this dropping stories becomes easier because you don't need stories. And yes, and maybe sometimes it's like, oh, I want to live the story and experience it. And then you can detach from it quite easily. And the more often I feel, the more often you attach too much to a story and get into the angriness I was talking about earlier, the more you realize something is not in alignment and something is somehow feeling so much either resistance or so much fighting. And when there is fighting or resistance too much, maybe you can think about if it's really meant to be like that, if it's really meant to be in your life, if it's really that experience you're here for to live. Because obviously also a lot goes out into projections to others of, oh, this one is living this life. This looks really nice and sweet and juicy. I want to live that too. And yes, you can explore it, but if it's too much resistance and fight, maybe it's just not meant for you. For example, if you, in this bubble of spiritual healers, if you think like, oh, I want to be self-employed and travel the world and be digital nomad and do my fancy things and share it on Instagram, as many do, and you try it, but you keep on bumping somehow, literally against walls, maybe that's just not your soul journey. And then it's about making peace with that and feeling inside and listening to your heart and your soul and the guidance from above. What is truly my story? If there is a story to be lived, what is mine? What is my truth? What is my heart not longing for? I wouldn't say, because longing is really like a attached desire somehow. But what is my soul really feel like? This is where my heart opens. This is where I feel home. This is where I feel most alive and most vibrant in my whole being. And that is probably the storyline that you're here to tell. And as a last reminder, at some point, stories will drop automatically. Not that you have to do it, but I feel at some point there will come a point where you see like, I've seen that, I've done that, I've experienced that. Maybe after lifetimes, yeah. Like, I'm tired of stories. I'm tired of telling stories. I'm just surrendering and floating and being here in my Zen, in peace and alignment with the deepest essence that there is. And maybe one tip, if you're stuck in one story at the moment, my last tip here for today, what also may help is when you have this affirmation in mind of, I'm not my story. I'm not my story. I'm not my story. Because if you identify too much with your story, obviously it becomes part of your being, of your energy system, so to say. Yeah, identity and your storyline are very much entangled. And it's about untangling it, unwrapping it. And by this affirmation, or in a way mantra, you can tell yourself, I'm not my story. That is not who you are. Yeah, you may break some stuckness and can free yourself. Yes, I wish you lots of experimentation, exploration, and hope that you flow with your storyline. Maybe you sit down and really note down in your journal, what is my current story and what is actually the story I want to write or to tell my children or my grandchildren, or want to, go to sleep at the end of my life with. Write that down and visualize it inside. If that helps you, if that's something you really like to do, visualize your storyline, make it vivid with all your senses, meditation, all these common habits really also for manifestation help to rewrite your story or own your story. Much love and bliss, and see you next time here in the podcast.